on some.
There?
Yes. Yep.
Oh, great. How you doing today?
I feel very healthy. I wish I was out fishing like some of my friends, but but someone has got to stay here and direct this amazing amount of traffic and changes in direction.
Well, it's a Friday, and it's April 24th. Kind of feel like I got to date things these days because, next week when some of this stuff airs on the radio, it's going to be on the podcast as of Friday night. But when it airs on the radio, things could change, and that's how quickly things are going. But just a quick kind of a minute or two, just version where we're at today, if you will.
Yeah, so we have seen significant additional shut-ins this week in response to the negative price signal, the negative WTI price signal that industry saw on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of this week. And we've seen our best estimate is around 1,200 additional wells shut in, and about 110,000 barrels a day additional shut in. And so we're now very rapidly approaching that 1 million barrels a day, or right in that territory in terms of the million barrels a day for North Dakota production. And we have put out a notice today for a hearing May 20th on economic waste and how that should be determined, and what, if any, regulatory actions are appropriate, and what the consequences of those various actions might be. And that'll be May 20th at 9 a.m.
What I really wanted to talk to you about, though, was a comment you had a couple of years ago that I found pretty fascinating from a logistical standpoint, and I never really thought it would come to a reality, but right now we're kind of living in a world where everything really is on the table, and we're trying to take things off logically. And I remember a few years ago you talked about, I think, rig counts, if they ever got down to zero, just really the reality behind the detriment behind that. And it had to do with more than the economic impact. It had to do with trying to find people to hire again and trying to locate equipment and just that whole logistical thing. I just remember you had a very good summary of how that whole thing works. And I just wondered if now wouldn't be a good time to maybe revisit that. Not saying that's going to happen, but I think it would help some people just kind of go through the process of what that looks like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. So I've seen it once before. 7 months after I took this job, the North Dakota rig count went to zero for a few weeks, and it had not been at zero at that time for more than 50 years. So only once in 75 years have we had zero rigs running in the state of North Dakota. I've heard some, there's always people that want to make wild projections, and so I've heard people talk about that with regards to this pandemic, and it's certainly possible, although not likely, for the very reason you talked about. Our conversations with the operators have indicated that they now, particularly through the 2015 price collapse, learned that even as an individual operator, if you plan to be active drilling and fracking on the other side of this demand destruction, you need to maintain the intellectual capital, the institutional knowledge of a drilling department, connections with contractors, and experienced rig crews allow you that give you some core to build on the other side. And those companies that went to zero in terms of drilling rigs encountered an enormous amount of inertia when they attempted to come back out of that and get back into the business of drilling and completing wells. So it's something I think almost all of our industrial companies, our active operators are aware of. They're all doing their level best to hang on to one or two drilling crews and some shared frac crews so that they don't lose that institutional knowledge, and all of a sudden they're in a position where the inertia of zero makes it slow or near impossible to get back up to speed.
How about what's next for some of these operators, some of these people, looking for work, that sort of thing, that are kind of in limbo? And what I mean by what's next is, there is a little bit of a lull obviously going on. Some people are doing some homeschooling. Some people are doing some online training. You've got, people are advancing their careers and their lives and maybe in the oil and gas sector still. And you and I have talked about just kind of rethinking rig counts for a lot of different reasons. Nothing's been defined before, but along those lines about looking at, the way rigs operate today, is there a direction that maybe people should be thinking when it comes to recertification, training, artificial intelligence? Some of the innovation, I imagine, is going to be kind of scaled in or integrated into the new rigs that are going to be added as the industry builds itself back over the next 12 months.
Yeah, so we expect most of that innovation to happen in the fracking area and then in the producing areas. So we saw industry build into the drilling process enormous efficiencies between 2015 and 2019, to the extent where they've almost squeezed all of the juice out of that turnip. But there's probably still some improvements yet to be made. But they've almost reached the physical limits of how quickly you can drill 20,000 feet and properly cement a well. Now, if somebody comes up with a incredible innovation on some new type of cementing material that allows more rapid turnaround there in the stages of the well, that all bets are off, I guess. But they're already drilling a 20,000 foot well in 10 days, so there's not a lot there. But on the fracking side, there's, I think, a lot of efficiency to be gained. We were just starting to see people implement artificial intelligence in the process of controlling the pumps, the rates, and the pressures, and that allowing the frac stages that went before to inform the computer of what to expect and how to respond, and they can respond much quicker than human beings can to the signals that are coming in terms of rate and pressure. And then we're really starting to see people get into a lot more electronic data collection and AI control of producing wells. The artificial lift systems, the way they operate and can ramp up and down with production. There's a lot to be gained there.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on today, and especially after hearing the last sentence or two that you said. As I was writing down the innovations you're talking about with artificial intelligence and being more precise than the human eye, that's the future. And the big data integration's the future too. So there's going to be opportunity, but it's going to come quick. it's going to come quick because big data doesn't slow. I went through this with the newspaper, magazine, and digital media integration, and when it comes pretty quick. And so I appreciate your time today, because I see where there's a little bit of a lull, but the industry is going to come back, and when it comes back, there is going to be a little bit of difference to it, and there's going to be it's going to be a safer industry, I think, when it's all said and done too. So any final thoughts, anything you want to get out there before we conclude on our Fridays here?
I don't think so. Did we talk about the hearing? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So we talked about the hearing. One of the things that we may see is an rapid expansion of storage capacity, and we're working on that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a real business opportunity there, we think, and so we're trying to help people with guidance to do that right. And again, it kind of goes back to, one of the long-term things we were working on was massive volume storage for petrochemical processing and that sort of thing. But this may elevate the desire or the need to have that kind of storage available for situations like Monday, when storage was full at the other end of the pipeline, and prices were reflecting that. So there might be some great business opportunities there.